as you said, you were a privacy advocate or are a privacy advocate, which is one of the things that attracted you to the technology originally. That's an interesting place to be because I feel like that's the one area Bitcoin lacks. And that's a lot of this cultural attack surface that people that are into Monero and other privacy coins try to highlight and say, oh, Bitcoin's not private, so you need, Monero or whatever this is. So I just think that, we had the block size wars in 2017. That already has pretty much been sorted out. So we've kind of hardened that shelling point. But I think we'll have something similar like that for privacy at some point. So it's a very contentious, nuanced area of Bitcoin. But just my own opinion is I think layer 2 technologies like Lightning and others will solve for privacy.
I'm with you on that.
In addition to scalability. So I think that's the way that race will go. But definitely a tricky topic to talk about. It's because Bitcoin can be private, but it's not private out of the box, so to speak.
It is. I look at altcoins really as, do they have this feature or function better than whatever? I look at that as being, for the most part, neutral. I'm not really concerned about it, interested in it. But when it comes to CBDCs are Bitcoin enemy.
Oh, yeah.
And so I am strongly against CBDCs. As a privacy advocate, this is dystopian.
Yeah, very cool. So let's talk, maybe you just fill me in a little bit about your engineering background, because I found it also fascinating. Maybe this is just the Michael Saylor effect, but how many engineers I've seen pouring into Bitcoin recently. And if anyone can get it, it's the engineer mindset, right? It's a fixed unit of measurement for economic value, just like we use fixed units of measurement for everything else that we coordinate on.
Yeah, I don't fully understand it, but I've observed that guys are typically, attracted to Bitcoin, and guys are typically attracted to engineering. I've observed that for decades, and I don't understand why they are. They just are. And as an engineer, what is it that really appeals to me? Again, it was the problem of, I was part of a search engine before Google was around, right? As a software developer, I was very interested in, let's call it the decentralized promise of the internet that was destroyed as we moved forward in time, more or less by, central powers like the Communist Chinese Party, or CCP over in China, and also the Russian Federation, and others. They filter so much that that decentralized internet, was, let's say, blunted, and so this is a technical problem, and I think engineers are interested in that. Why is it that non-engineers are not so much interested about privacy and technology and money? I don't know. I can't explain that very well.
Yeah, it's as if, we had this great promise in the emergence of the internet that it was going to democratize and decentralize everything. And if anything, it's sort of done the opposite. I guess it has democratized the access to a lot of things. What we're doing right now, right, it's a form of decentralized media that's been very disruptive to kind of mainstream broadcast networks of the 20th century. But it also created a lot of centralization in, say, the FANG stocks, right? 5 of the most valuable companies in the world that just shot up out of the internet revolution as large megalithic institutions. We needed it. What we didn't have was Bitcoin, frankly, right? You could move the information without permission, but there was a real problem when you can't move the economic value without permission, because you still get kind of trapped in that legacy network. And it does seem to me, and this is the key distinction between Bitcoin and all other crypto assets, is that only Bitcoin is provably decentralized, whereas all of these others are, a lot of people use the acronym DINO, decentralized in name only.
Yes.
So what does that I mean, is in your view of Bitcoin, is that the key value proposition that you saw? It's decentralized money in a world that's increasingly centralized. Is that why you've attached onto this movement as part of
Yeah.
your trajectory?
Yeah. If you look at the 2008, October 31st innovation, it was a peer-to-peer transaction without an intermediary,
Mm-hmm.
without an intermediary. That was the invention. That's ground zero. That's 0 to 1. So why did that appeal to me? Well, if we go back in time and technology and this promise of a decentralized internet, I mean, we had writings out there and a lot of conversation. I was hanging out with software people, and like for example, the book The Sovereign Individual. Okay, I don't know if I've read that book or I've listened to an audio since that time, a long time ago. I've recently listened to it, and it's fantastic. But I know I had influence because I had my friends and my colleagues were reading it. But I remember reading the world is flat, and this is where we were going to go. This was going to be the decentralized internet promise. This is what was going to happen, and it really didn't. And so the original attraction to me for Bitcoin was, this is the world is flat all over again. This is the sovereign individual. This is individual sovereignty. This is what I thought the future world was going to be, but it didn't go that way. So, yeah, I had a lot of early influence in that vision, but the technology went in a different direction.
So you saw the promise of the internet as being this liberating force, restoring power to the people. But obviously there were some missing pieces to that. And then you latched on to Bitcoin as kind of the tool necessary to help realize that future.
Yeah, I thought with the internet, I thought authoritarians were going to be out of luck, and the individual sovereignty, the sovereign individual was going to be empowered. And obviously that didn't work. I mean, you look at the rise of authoritarianism around the world. Obviously, that hypothesis did not play out.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, there's so many factors to consider, but it definitely seems like people now have more options than they ever have before by virtue of digital technology, as far as communicating and transacting, holding capital, moving around, all these things. It's digital tech has improved marketplaces with things like Uber and Airbnb and whatnot. But the flip side of that is you've had the legacy analog institutions sort of scrambling to get a hold of this new digital media. And that's where, so, I mean, the way I often describe this is it feels like the spectrum of possibilities wide open now. We can keep going towards 1984, or we could veer hard right towards some, digital renaissance or something to that effect.